when Notre Dame hosts Indiana this weekend to kick off the college football playoffs, you need to know what prospects to watch for the 2025 NFL Draft. Kurtis Rourke, quarterback for Indiana, and Riley Leonard, quarterback for Notre Dame, leads off that list. We'll talk about that and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parsons. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. And you know I got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. Keep talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champion, man, and the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. Today's show, we're going with the Indiana versus Notre Dame preview. What we're going to do, we're going to talk about offensive prospects, defensive prospects, and then let you know what are the X-Factor prospects to watch out for that's going to make decisions on this playoff game. DP, let's get into this conversation.
This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Keith, we are kicking off the first time ever 12-team college football playoff series and playoffs period in college football. Indiana, Notre Dame, and when I look at the offensive prospects to watch, of course, we had Drew Aller just announced he's going back to school. So the quarterback class for the 2025 NFL Draft just took a massive hit, Keith.
Just got a little bit smaller.
Just got a little bit smaller, a little less talented, a little less younger. Now you're looking at guys who are seniors. You're looking at Riley Leonard, who's going to the Senior Bowl. Looking at Kurtis Rourke for Indiana, that is going to the Shrine. Keith, for me, I think I'm sticking with Riley Leonard. 6'4", 215, 220, good arm talent. If you go to, for those, you go read my draft profile, Bleacher Report, my comp for him is Ryan Tannehill. And we know that Ryan Tannehill had successful moments in the NFL. In Tennessee, he showed flashes of it in Miami. Then once he was let go or traded or whatever, I can't remember how that whole thing happened. He went to Tennessee, and his career was rejuvenated. You know what I mean? And arm talent, similar, like in terms of body type, profile. Riley Leonard, this almost 800 yards rushing on the season from your quarterback, right? So Notre Dame is going to have to lean on him as a full-fledged player, and I just hope that we get to see him playing quarterback, making accurate passes, good decisions from the pocket. And hey, when you need to use your legs, big fella. I'm not saying don't do it, but I hope that we get to see, because he has some really high level throws on tape. Like, he has some good stuff on tape where you're like, okay, where was this at the beginning of the season? Now, if we can get that in this playoff run, I don't think any quarterback in this playoffs could help themselves with a run more than Riley Leonard from Notre Dame.
Yeah, I like that. And I know we talked about it a couple of times, right? But we didn't mention Riley Leonard and the guys that can somewhat help themselves, right? I know I just kind of labeled and said everybody. But Riley Leonard in this situation, because he is a dual threat quarterback, people they're going to want to buy into the tools. And this seems like one of those drafts, DP, where it's going to be quarterbacks at the very last second that come out of nowhere, right? When we start talking about first-round conversation, second-round conversation, and it's going to be guys like Riley Leonard. But I want to flip it on the other side of this matchup and talk about Kurtis Rourke, DP, because Kurtis, obviously Indiana, they was 10-0 at the time that they lost to Ohio State, and it's not just about how you lose. I mean, that you lost. It's about how you lose as a talent evaluator, and his team looked outmatched, and then Kurtis looked somewhat outmatched, right? Just from the mental and talent perspective too, because you would want to believe that, hey, like if you're a good enough quarterback that you can get some things done. I go back to that. You think about that national championship game. Now, mind you, Clemson is very talented, right? And I'm not asking Kurtis to be this good, but we have other examples too. But the one that pops to mind instantly is you think about Cam Newton versus Bama, right? And Auburn was still kind of that underrated team, and Cam was a good football player, and I think he was a 1-year wonder, so everybody was still buying into Cam actively, and then
Yeah.
they down 28-0, and then he sits there and say, "This ain't happening. We're not going with this one," right? And he brings his team all the way back. Or you think about the other side of that, the Deshaun Watson situation, right, in the national championship game, and you watched him get helicoptered in the air by like Reggie Ragland and Jonathan Allen or something, right? And then you say, "Oh, that's not good." But then you see him pick himself up and go on and win that game, right? And so I just want to see Kurtis Rourke look competitive in this game. And I know that we say, I say definitely, right, that quarterback is the most dependent position on the field, but I still want you to look somewhat like you belong, right? And in the Ohio State game, there were a lot of things that went wrong that it was like you question, like, did we miss on this one? Was it really did it really have to do with strength of schedule at the end of the day? So I look at Indiana, I look at Kurtis Rourke, and I want to see certain things from him for sure.
I think even going back to that Ohio State matchup, I think Ohio State looked at the Michigan tape, saw how that Michigan defensive line, which both of these, two of the best defensive lines in college football in the nation,
Yep.
and it was like, if we can get you off your spot, you're not a high-end athlete, right? You're kind of a throwback traditional style pocket passer. If you give Kurtis Rourke time, as Ohio State found out on that was the first drive of that game when they drove down and scored. If you give him time, he's going to dice you. He's going to slice and dice you. He's going to hit you with accurate passes outside the numbers, between the hashes, in the middle of the field. He throws with accuracy, touch timing, anticipation, and ball placement. You got to move him off the spot. It's like the old Tom Brady adage, get him off the spot. And I think that's going to be a big thing again with Notre Dame, because it's going to be the third. I would say this is probably the third best defensive line that he'll face, especially on the interior, which we'll get into the next topic. But yeah, I look at for Kurtis Rourke, again, not even trying to make us forget about those two games, but say, okay, I figured out, I watched the tape, I saw how poorly he didn't even throw 100 yards against Ohio State. That pressure, they said, okay, after that first drive, Ohio State, we're not allowing you
and that's
to sit back there.
thing, DP, is that, and I forgot about that part, like the opening drive, they went right down the field. So that's not reaching 100 yards with having a long drive to open the game. So you did relatively nothing, right?
Right.
Like you did the equivalent of punt on first down for the rest of the game. And that just can't happen, because I do want to buy into him as a prospect. Like you said, he's going to the Shrine Bowl, be able to get eyes on him and say, hey, like it's – and we talked about this with Jalen Milroe, right? And there's certain comps that go for certain guys, right? And I said it like, right, Jalen Milroe can't be Jalen Hurts, right, as his comp if he doesn't do the Jalen Hurts thing, right? It just has to work. And with Kurtis Rourke, I've seen people bring up Kirk Cousins, right? And kind of can't be Kirk Cousins if you don't, do this type of situation, right? But you got to play some type of level of high-level football and place yourself in position to be somewhat of a fourth, fifth rounder, kind of like Kirk was, to where people can buy in. And he may go to a situation where he's backing up a superstar quarterback, or it can be a situation where a team needs to double down on quarterbacks, kind of like what Washington had to do a couple of years ago when they drafted RG3 also.
No, I like that, Keith. And I'm gonna stick with Indiana real quick on the offensive side of the ball. His number one wide receiver for Kurtis Rourke is Elijah Surratt. Like almost 900 yards receiving. The next guy has less than 600 yards receiving on this team. He's 6'2", 210, well built, good route runner, ball skills. He knows how to separate and knows how to stem and defeat man-to-man coverage. And even though Benjamin Morrison isn't playing in this game, Notre Dame still has talented corners. A guy, a nickel corner in this class, and then some young guys. So I think that's going to be a big thing for them, as well as getting the run game going. Justice Ellison, Tyson Lawton, both of those guys. This is a team that wants to run the ball. Like, they will run the ball. They will play action you. It will look at times pro-stylish. And when you have that situation happening, you're like, okay, if we can get the numbers we want in the secondary, we can force you to have to load the box. Now Kurtis Rourke, play action, RPO game, things of that nature. Now we can attack you down the field vertically, get Elijah Surratt one-on-one, create some advantageous matchups to attack down the field.
Well, DP, let's keep this thing going, man. And we talked about the offensive prospects. Let's flip to the other side of the football, man. Show the defense some respect and talk about the defensive prospects to watch in this Notre Dame versus Indiana college football playoff matchup.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch or an urge in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Again, you'll get started with $150 back in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And again, to get in on the action, just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. It's that time of the year. The college football playoff is back. And with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. Defensive prospects to watch, Keith. I'm going to that defensive line for Notre Dame. We just talked about it. Kurtis Rourke, he was solid against Michigan. He was not great after that first opening drive against Ohio State because they kept pressuring him. And to be honest with you, it wasn't just the defensive line. It felt like the Ohio State's DC said, we're going to let our D-line clog up and take up blocks, and we're going to send our backers. And Jack Kaiser is one of their top linebackers for Notre Dame. But I'm going to that interior defensive line, Keith. I'm looking at because I think he's supposed to be coming back from an injury, and he's supposed to be good to go. Howard Cross and Riley Mills, both of those guys, man, like they can push the pocket. They have really good hand usage, strong-handed as well, strong upper body, guys that can anchor in the run game. So I think that's going to be a big thing for them is stopping the run. Can you stop the run? Can those two guys stop the interior run game from Justice Ellison and Tyson Lawton and force Kurtis Rourke to drop back in true drop back sets for 3 straight quarters, right? Get first quarter out the way, you get to the second quarter, like, all right, no more run game. We're stopping this. We're forcing him, and we're going to take them out of their game plan. And if you could do that, then it puts Kurtis Rourke in the spot where you know that the pass rush is coming over and over again after that fact. So I'm looking at those two guys on the interior defensive line. Like I said, Riley Mills, and Howard Cross III. I like both of those guys. I was surprised they actually went back to school. I liked them last year as well. And I think, Keith, it also opens it up because if you start getting pressure, you start forcing the ball out quickly, that allows their star safety, Xavier Watts, to get into the mix. And with him being a guy that could take the ball away, we saw it against, was it USC? I think he had a pick six. It might have been USC where he had that pick six, like almost like 100-yard pick six from the end zone to the end zone. And like, you know what I mean? And just kind of watching him, the way he's able to squat, sit on routes, play robber technique, that kind of traditional strong safety in those cover 3 zone schemes. We're going to show you too high, rotate, post snap, work down into the 10 to 12-yard range, take away crossers, take away in breakers, take away. I didn't get a chance to talk about Mitchell Evans, the tight end. Hasn't had a great season, but a talented player. Can you take him away, limit the other passing options for Mitchell Evans, but the tight end for Indiana? Can you limit those weapons and then force them to try and throw in the double coverage to Elijah Surratt, right? Like you force, okay, that's your guy. That's who you want to throw to all the time. Cool. Throw it to him now. Well, we got a safety over the top. We're playing 2-man under, and we're taking away everything else. So Xavier Watts, man, I think he's got the chance. Like Kurtis Rourke better be on Be on your P's and Q's, big fella. Pre-snap, you need to know where Xavier Watt is at all times, Keith.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. And I look at Xavier Watts, right? And you talked about it like just one of those, I guess you can say rangy, but more instinctual than even rangy, right? Just understanding. And then those players that kind of play underneath and get depth, right? So you think that they're second level defenders, but they're climbing right to that third level, and then they're taking away those hole shots. And when you watch Kurtis Rourke, he's going to have to be a timing and anticipation thrower, but he's going to have to get it right, right? Like you anticipate, you better get it right pre-snap and post-snap what they're doing, because I mean they showed quarterbacks in USC, right? Y'all mess up, we taking both of them to the crib, right? We're gonna cost you 14 points ourselves. So I like the call out with Xavier Watts, and then I also look at Jordan Clark, right? The other nickel safety hybrid type of football player to kind of range and roam around on the back end just to make a couple plays and see if he could get his hands on the football. He has an interception already on a year, but also in that USC game that we talked about, right? Had 5 solo tackles, and just can kind of make plays, and had an interception, I believe, against Florida State. But DP, on transition to the Indiana side, when you talk about defensively, and I want to ask you, are there any prospects on the Indiana side that initially come to your mind?
Man, I think about Mikhail Kamara. That's their top pass rusher. And in a game like this where getting off the field on third downs, getting into the backfield on the season, he has overall a 17.4 pass rush win rate. But when he is told, hey, it's true drop back sets, go after the quarterback, it jumps to 28%. He on the season, 10 sacks, 17 hits, quarterback hits, 34 pressures on true drop back sets, 27 of his 34 hurries and 10 of his 17 QB hits, along with 6 of his 10 sacks, come when the quarterback has to throw the ball. And that's going to be a big thing for that defense to stop the run. Right, with I think it's Jeremiah Love, the running back that absolutely talented running back. He's going to be in the conversation for next year in terms of RB1. You know what I mean, for next year's class. If you can slow him down, keep Riley Leonard in the pocket. Don't let him break contain, because if you do let him break contain, this isn't a like what we see from Carson Beck. Because like, oh yeah, he's functional, right? Like he's a functional athlete. Like he can get you 5 to 7, maybe even 10. No, Riley Leonard can get you 20. He can get you 25. Like you're going to have to make sure you don't let him out of the pocket and let him just break free. Yeah, he'll keep his eyes down the field. So for me, what Mikhail Kamara, that's the guy that leads the pack for me. Just for that defense for Indiana, this is a good defense overall. But that's the guy. Like that's the guy you have to like game plan for. Because he's the only one with, I think, even close. Yeah, he's the only one close to 10. He's got 10 sacks. No one else has over 5. He is the guy. I expect Notre Dame to potentially slide protection his way and try to ice him out of this game, right? Or honestly, at the same time, try to run at him and see if you could take his legs out. He's 6'1". He is well built. He's kind of a weird build because he's 6'1", 265, right? So he's short and he's super compact. So it's like, all right, like, can we get you off the spot? Can we tire you out in the run game to where when it is 3rd and 8 late in the game, you don't have as much juice in the legs as you did in the first quarter, right? Like you want to try and take that away from him. So that's the guy for me. Like when I look at the Indiana's defense, like it starts with him, in my honest opinion. I think it starts with him and his ability to play both ends, play the run game, set the edge, get into the backfield, but also just be able to get to the quarterback and be the dominant pass rusher he's been all season. And like Indiana's got their interior D line is, I think, a little bit undersized. CJ West 6'2", he's like 317, so he's a good build. But they play Tyreek Tucker, he's 6'2", 298, so he's kind of that shorter, sub 300 pounder. Can you run the ball on these guys? That's going to be the big thing. Because if you can't, and now Kamara gets to pin his ears back, the proof is in the pudding. He knows how to get in the backfield.
Yeah, DP, you know who he reminds me of? And it's funny, well, and maybe that's why he reminds me of him, because they got the same last name. Remember the edge rusher from Colorado State? I think it was Mohamed Kamara from Colorado State. And I think he wound up going to the Miami Dolphins, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
But
yeah.
very similar body types, too. I think The Indiana Kamara, right, is probably, I think, 6'1", 265 pounds. And I think Colorado State's Kamara was probably 6'2" and a half, 265, right? Like kind of those hybrid tweeners, they'll kick them inside, line them up outside type of situations, but they kind of remind me of the same player, same build, but also proven sack production, right? So it's just funny that they have the same last name too, because they're very similar in stature. With DP, let's transition, man. And what we're going to, those X factor prospects, right? Indiana versus Notre Dame, 2025 NFL draft prospects. Who's going to be the X factor in this matchup?
Today's episode is sponsored by PrizePicks. If you love watching the game, you're going to love PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Whether it's football, basketball, or any of your favorite sports, PrizePicks makes your holidays bigger and brighter. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas and offering 2 free picks in December. When your picks hit, PrizePicks makes it easy to cash out. You can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. Guys, you don't want to miss out on a deal like this. So download the app. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly when you play just $5. PrizePicks, run your game. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for. And with Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted memberships and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot for being our everydayers. X Factors, Keith, in this game that it's one and done now. There's no more, we got next week. No, you don't. Like, this is it. This is it. And this is also going into the holiday break. So you want to go into the holiday break knowing you're going to have some good time with the family on the holidays, but you want to come out of this weekend with a win. And you're kicking off the college football playoffs, Keith. I think when I look at X Factors for this Indiana versus Notre Dame game, I go to Bo Collins. Bo Collins, you remember, a lot of people may not remember him. He was one of the top targets for a while at Clemson. Big body guy. He was always a good route runner. Was smooth, could change directions well in terms of selling double moves, sluggo, stuff like that. Guy that can win at the catch point, play that power forward role, box you out, back shoulder fades, things like that. You want to get isolated one-on-one on the outside, throw the goal ball to him. And the main thing for him is going to be separating against this team, separating against that secondary. And he is, if I remember correctly, I believe he's the leading receiver right now. Yeah, he is the leading receiver. You know what I mean? And again, that passing offense has not been outstanding this year, hasn't been very robust, but at the same time, only 2,300 yards, almost 2,400 yards receiving between all of their weapons and everything. But he's going to be an X factor. If you can get one-on-ones and you got Riley Leonard playing good ball, he's playing just on time, on schedule. Like, you need to be where you need to be. Where if it's a 3-step drop and a slant, he needs you to break at the top of that route and get open for him, right? And then with that being a big body guy, one thing that I liked about Bo when he was at Clemson, he could make plays after the catch. He was strong. He had a nice stiff arm, but he also showcased a little bit of elusiveness and agility in open field to where it's like, okay, I'm working the between the numbers. He had spatial awareness, so okay, I see that safety, top of the hash. I catch this pass. he's going to be closing in quick. Let me go ahead and evade him, and now I got a clear path to some yards at the catch. I think that's going to be a big part of this game for Notre Dame. How are you going to put up points? The passing game is going to be needed, and Bo Collins is going to be needed as well, because unless they can get Mitchell Evans going, who was their best one of their best weapons last year, hasn't really had the great season this year for him, less than 300 yards receiving. Let's say get him going. Somebody's got to catch the ball for Riley Leonard in this game.
Yeah, and DP, great minds think alike, because this is exactly where I was going to. Because you would have to believe, if you're Indiana, you walking in and you saying, "Hey, I'm not letting Notre Dame run the football. I'm making them beat me over top, right?" And I'm looking at Bo Collins, and had right around 430 yards receiving on the year, right? But just look at some of his longs, right? He had 2 catches against Navy, but his long was 37 yards. He had 85 yards against Stanford, but the long was 53 yards, right? Had 60 yards against Miami, Ohio. The long was 38. So he's a chunk play guy, right? And he's one of those football players that you're probably going to throw up, get 50-50 contested situations, not a burner, right? Like, he's not nobody that's just going to beat you vertical, but Riley Leonard is going to need somebody he could depend on for a chunk play. And that's how Notre Dame is going to move. The football is going to have to be run the football, play action, take a shot over top, Bo Collins, go up, come down with it. And I remember this young man, because he's out of California, I believe, and he came down to LSU and watching him, right? And that was the one thing that stood out when I watched him during one of our camps, was that he had really good ball skills, right? Like, he can track the football, jump up, go get it. Obviously, him separating vertically from people is not his forte, but if he can play physical, be like, you know what, I'm going to be dominant above the rim, he can be an X-factor prospect. And to be honest with you, if you look at the way that this game is going to go, I think that he's probably, like, and we talk about X factor, right? But X factor meaning probably the most important person, because what do you, like, once Indiana loads the box, what do you do in turn 2 after that? As far as if you're Notre Dame, you talked about Mitchell Evans having a lackluster career. It can't solely be placed on, and maybe I would say it can't be based on Riley Leonard's running ability. Bo Collins, as the senior, as the guy with the most experience, the leading receiver, like you said, he's gonna have to show up.
And Keith, I think it's supposed to, in this game, it's supposed, this is in Notre Dame, so it's, cold weather,
it's supposed to be raining or something.
Yeah, you might get overcast. It's supposed to be like 27 degrees. So for one, like, and both of these are cold weather teams, right? Indiana's cold. Like, we've gone up to the combine. Like, oh, it's snowing. All right, cool. You know what I mean? Great. Like like, it's just 30 below. Like, great. So they're going to be used to it, but it's going to be a game of who wants to hit. Who wants to tackle, right? When it gets cold, tackling ain't as fun, and it's not as fun anymore. And knowing that you have to, if you're Indiana, and it's going to be dictated, if Notre Dame gets that run game going early, you're going to have to start loading the box. And like you said, with Bo Collins, now you get one-on-one. What can you do when they give you one-on-one and they allow you to attack that secondary in those one-on-one situations? I think Riley Leonard, again, he throws such a good deep ball where the pacing, the timing, the accuracy of it all. Like, if you do get a step, and let's say you're not going to take it to the house, he'll put it over that right outside shoulder, let you track it, let you get, a foot or 2 feet in. Hey, it's a 40-yard play. It's an explosive play down the field. We just got chunk yardage. That's going to be a big thing for them. So I look at that situation for him as a big time opportunity for Bo Collins. I believe he's a senior. So it's like, yeah, crazy enough, like, you probably wish he stayed at Clemson, because with the way that Cade had ended up playing this year, he probably could have had much better numbers this year in that air raid, or they call it dirt raid offense in Clemson. They still run the ball, but also throw it. So he didn't have the season statistically he wanted, but still, yet as a big body receiver, teams that you think about, because I mean, when I look at him, Keith, a name that in terms of like a pro comp a little bit, he reminds me a little bit of Tim Patrick before the injuries. Just a guy that knew how to, like, when you're telling him, hey, run the inside track, he can box you out, protect the ball. He can catch the ball away from his frame, away from his body. You know what I mean? Use his body as kind of a shield on those slants, those crossers, those in cuts. But then down the field, you throw the back shoulder fade. He has the body control. He understands how to stop, come back to the ball, things of that nature. I think this could be a big time showing for him if they can get the passing game going for Notre Dame, and it'll be big for him. And then I think X factor for Indiana, Keith, I go back to the run game. Justice Ellison, man. Like, a lot of people don't know much about him, but this was a guy similar to Kenneth Walker. I'm not gonna lie. I do not like that slow mesh that Wake Forest runs. Absolutely not. But from a running back standpoint, if it don't prepare you to make quick decisions on a dime, that's exactly what it does. And he does the same thing. He was good at Wake Forest, transferred in, and he's been good for Indiana. And they have a two-headed run game. If they can get Justice Ellison in this run game going, that would be big for him. And for Justice Ellison, you're in. I believe he's a senior as well, so it's not like you get to go back to school. You're in one of the most loaded running back classes that we've seen in quite some time. Sorry for it. You know what I mean? But go out there, ball out, and just kind of tell these teams, again, teams that don't value running backs at a high clip, hey, San Francisco, they draft a running back in the 4th round every single year.
Every year they load up on one.
Like, this is this is absolutely a San Francisco 49ers style running back, right? He fits what they do. Quick-footed, processes information quickly. He'll put his face in the fire and pass protection. He's solid in terms of catching the ball. But again, if they were to move off from Christian McCaffrey, you got Jordan Mason, you need to add another back to it. Justice Ellison could be that guy. So keep an eye on him as a day 3 prospect. But yeah, man, I think he's the X factor for the Indiana Hoosiers, Keith. They got to run the ball. They got to protect their quarterback and give him some play action. Justice Ellison is going to be a big part of that.
Well, DP, Notre Dame, we both went Bo Collins. Then on the other side, Indiana, we're going with Justice Ellison as the running back. And honestly, DP, I think that is the soul guys, right? When you talk about being X factors, and it'd be something intriguing to look at outside of obviously the quarterbacks, right? Riley Leonard, Kurtis Rourke. But this should be an interesting matchup, DP. And I'm interested to see what Indiana does. How do they come out? And then guess what? A lot of pressure.
Low-scoring game, Keith.
I think so too. Game. Like you're trying to gas yourself up, right? Maybe Indiana comes out there and gets something going and drop 30, but we will see. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. Every listen is greatly appreciated here. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at the talent code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot, for being our everydayers. On tomorrow's show, guys, we are previewing SMU at Penn State. Penn State know that they're going to have their quarterback, Drew Allen, for one more year for a senior year. Can he get them to the next stage and face off with Boise State, I think, after the Christmas break? Yeah, we got to watch that game. So we're going to preview that game, the prospects to watch on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.